Yes, we can.
Okay, I'd like to share some slides, and I'd like to get the host to enable the participant screen sharing, please. Otherwise, I can speak extemporaneously. I have no problem with that. So maybe I can start while they're doing that, if it's possible. So my name is Rahul Singhvi. I'm the CEO and co-founder of National Resilience. This is a company based in the United States. We started this company in the middle of the pandemic, and the idea was that during this period of time when supply chains were really struggling because of countries lockdown, countries like China, and a lot of supplies were coming from there. It became very apparent that nations needed to think about how to make the supply chain more resilient. And national resilience, or resilience as we fondly call it, was formed during that period of time. And our view was that those type of products that are responsible or are important for populations should be produced within the country. So these are products like vaccines or therapeutics that need to be produced that are responsible for the populations to survive these type of events, that you cannot depend on other countries or supply chains that are vulnerable to lockdowns and pandemics. So that was really the motivation. But at that time, it was also very clear that you cannot build a company that is only useful in events of pandemics. That you needed to build a company that was sustainable during non-pandemic periods, so that you could allow the company to run on the basis of market forces, not from government handouts. And it just turned out that we are actually living in an era of incredible innovation in biotechnology, where a large number of new type of medicines are coming along because we learned so much about the basis of disease. And uh, these new, yeah, are you able to see the screen?
Yes, it's coming. Yes, we can.
All right.
Perfect.
So this is exactly the point where I was saying that in this era that we are living in, we are seeing incredible innovation in genomics that is giving rise to new type of medicines that are very different from pills and tablets that we're used to. These are medicines that can actually cure people, and these are cell therapies where living cells are medicines, or gene therapies where you're delivering genetic material, nucleic acids like the messenger RNA example we saw in the COVID pandemic, vaccines which have been around for a long time but continue to be incredibly important to prevent disease, and biologics like antibodies. So these type of medicines are now actually being designed. They're not discovered anymore because people really understand the basis of disease. And there's an incredible number of such drug candidates that are coming through the pipelines of biotech companies and pharma companies, and they all require manufacturing. And that is one of the areas in this industry that has not gotten the attention that it deserves. And the combination of the fact that we need to have resilient supply chains to deal with pandemics, and the fact that these new medicines require incredible manufacturing capabilities, was the basis of resilience. So we created the company with a mission to create a healthier world that could increase access and affordability of these new type of medicines and vaccines, so that everybody, irrespective of economic background, could get access to these type of medicines. And our view was that the best way for us to enable such a mission is to become an athlete in biomanufacturing, a most trusted biomanufacturing partner, not a discoverer of medicines, not a developer of medicines, not a seller of medicines, but a manufacturing athlete. And our inspiration was companies like Taiwan Semiconductor that are so good in making semiconductors that 92% of world's most advanced chips are made by Taiwan companies. And there is no such company in our area. In the biopharmaceutical industry, there is no such company. And so that became our inspiration. And we said, like, if we wanted to become the TSMC of biomanufacturing, what is it that we will need to do? And our strategy had basically four elements to them. First, you have to become a trusted supplier, meaning like if you say something, do it. And that may sound very obvious, but in fact, that's not the case in our industry. The supply is not trustworthy, especially when you're talking about outsourcing. Second, you need to make the supply chain simple. These new type of medicine require a lot of different types of reagents and components that are sourced from multiple different companies. It's a mess. So having an ability to have an end-to-end capability is very important. Third, which is the main topic that I want to discuss today, is the use of digital and biotechnology platforms so that we can increase the capabilities of making these medicines faster, cheaper, better. And then there's a last part of it, which was to create an aligned incentive model, or what we call a differentiated business model, which aligns the incentives of the companies that want us to make the products and our own interests. So anyway, these were the four elements. And today, what I'd like to discuss is how digitization is enabling us to achieve our mission. Before I go there, just quick point I want to make about how we are building the company. We started the company by creating capacity. So we built a network of facilities. Remember, this company was started in the middle of 2020 in my basement with just me, no bank account, no money, nothing. And today we have, I'll show you 2,000 people and 8 GMP sites that I'm going to show you where they're located. But anyhow, that was the beginning. That top orange box that you see, build capacity and start acquiring customers and showing that you can do what you say and say what you do, which is to build that trustworthy relationship, the delivery. Because we didn't have any technology at that time. Even today, we're just building the technology, which is where the investment is going on. And that new business model, which is to align incentives, is then creating this new type of a partner that is becoming the partner of choice, not only for biotechs and pharmas, but also for sovereign nations, which is what PK was talking about, is how we can actually become a partner of choice for individual countries that want the same thing that we're trying to build in North America. And as we do that, we increase the margins, and then that flywheel continues, and we continue to scale the company. So here's what we built over the past 2 years or 3 years that we've been in business. So we started with nothing, and today we have this network in North America that's spread across the entire continent. And you can see that we have several sites that can do GMP manufacturing as well as laboratory work. And this is a color-coded, it's a complex slide, but the main point is that it is a very large capability that we've been able to build in the past 3 years or so. And of course, you can't build this without buying stuff. So it's a build and buy strategy that we've used. And we've been very blessed to be supported by some of the biggest investors in the world. And it's not just the major financial investors, but also countries with their sovereign funds, and also academic institutions, as well as pharmaceutical companies that have invested in this company. And again, the idea is that if you can build something like this, it really helps scale the entire industry, and it makes countries much more resilient to problems such as pandemics. So what I wanted to mention today, specifically, since this is a tech conference, and I thought this might be of use to you guys, is that how is digital acceleration helping us reinvent biomanufacturing? And here, I'd like to just show you a few slides about how we are digitizing our factories. We're building these smart cloud-first labs and factories that are giving us the transparency that our customers demand from us. This allows us to be able for our customers to basically look at their iPad and see exactly what's happening to their drug. That is ultimately the outcome of this whole point of digitizing the facility. This is not just useful for our customers, but it can also be very useful for regulatory authorities. As you know, this is a highly regulated industry. So giving this level of transparency can also make our regulators much more comfortable with what's actually going on in these facilities. So that's the first point. It's just transparency and the customer experience that comes from digitization and putting everything on the cloud. Every app that we have, every facility that we have is cloud enabled, is cloud native. The second thing is that when we are dealing with a large network, a fragmented situation, again, having cloud native apps allow us to manage that kind of a network much more uh, easily, and because it all looks it's all connected, and uh, and by having that, we are able to upload data from the various instruments, from the various machines, and all of that can be then collated to be able to make our entire network much more standard. So standardization is the key, by doing something like this. So we have the same app in quality management systems or manufacturing execution system or ERP systems. Try to standardize all the workflows and make them cloud based. Now, the third thing we do is to simulate these factories by using digital twins and uh, and creating models, so that whatever is happening in each of these factories can be modeled through these digital twins. And once you have them, you can have multiple of these factories collate all the data. They contribute to a data mesh that can then be used to derive incredible insights that you would otherwise not be able to do. So these are the four elements: transparency, connectivity, and standardization, digitization, and simulation, and then using the simulations to get insights are the four elements of benefits that we can get by having everything enabled on the cloud. And we have been able to create multiple different cloud products of our own that help with either customer transparency, with process design, with laboratory data, and also by productizing our operations by putting all of the SOPs on the cloud. And by doing that, I'll give you two examples that have helped us really take advantage of all of this to drive customer benefit. The first one here is an example where we are doing personalized medicine. So autologous cell therapy, where your own blood is transformed to fight your cancer. So here you don't get the economy of scale of having a central factory. So you're essentially trying to do something where you're decentralizing everything, and you've got like of N of one type of a batch. And these type of operations, if you imagine, it's like the dialysis centers or blood transfusion centers that are distributed across the country. If we can make therapies that way, again, having these facilities that are digitally connected, you can easily see the benefit of that, both from a regulatory standpoint, also from a data insight standpoint, that can then tell you how to make actually get the feedback loop. That how does the process or the manufacturing affect the ultimate product, and then you can have a feedback loop that can tell you how to improve the product itself. So this is not something that a manufacturing company could easily do, but with this kind of information that you have, you can actually tell to the developer of a drug that, hey, if you do X, Y, and Z, you're going to have a better outcome. And that is turning a manufacturing company into a data company. That is what this thing can do, and we're very excited about this. This is not in practice right now. This is still being developed, but this is something that we believe is going to transform the way manufacturing data can be used. And lastly, we started this company in North America. So that's what you see majority of our network to be. But as I mentioned, this onboarding of new sites becomes much easier when you have all of the data in the cloud. And so other countries have found that this could be the best way for them to future-proof themselves. And so we have started to build a facility in the UAE, as well as in other parts of the GCC countries. And we also have some possibilities of working in Asia and Australia, Europe, and South America, again, because we have a series of countries that have shown an interest that whatever we are building in North America could also be built in these different parts of the world, because everybody wants national resilience. They don't want to be on their knees waiting for somebody to give them their vaccines, even they're willing to pay for it. And that experience that people have had has been traumatic, and people don't want to go through that again. And so if we can enable something like this through our model, where we can use our cloud-based approach to essentially overnight beam all that information into these countries as we build the facilities, we can get them to commission overnight. and that can make them incredibly capable without even having the expertise within their own land. And because we are building everything to global standards, we can also allocate global work to them. So this is what makes these satellites incredibly useful and sustainable. So I'm going to stop here and PK, if you have any questions.
First of all, thank you, Rahul, for joining us here. You know, this whole thing about biologics and, you know, digital and cloud kind of sounds counterintuitive. Like it's also very drastically different from how things have been done in the biologics industry. So you coming from being IIT Kanpur chemical engineer, you know, MIT, you know, Wharton, how did you think of this to build it and infinitely scale it? That's what your program is. How did you go into that direction?
Yeah, so thanks for that question. So I've been in this industry now for almost 30 years, and I can tell you, PK, that I am appalled at the level of naivety and the mediocrity that we tolerate in this industry when it comes to manufacturing excellence. Um, you know, you and I can both go to Costco and buy better TV every year with better colors and lower cost. But that's not the case in when you go to the pharmacy. I think medicines are becoming more expensive. At least I'm talking about the U.S. Um, and uh, and I think that's largely because I think we don't. I mean, part of the problem is that we don't pay as much attention to the cost base, and um, and here this is something that at least I have been talking about for many years, and only recently in 2020 when the pandemic actually made this very uh, situation extraordinarily stark, that many of the very smart people in the industries got together and said, like, we got to build a company that is really a top athlete in manufacturing. And I was very privileged that they asked me to co-found the company with them. And that, for me, that was the moment when the stars had aligned, and we thought that we could actually build the company of the future. So all of the learnings of the past 27 years that I've been in this industry, we just decided to pour into this and said, like, look, we have to really learn from other industries that have done a much better job of adopting technology to improve manufacturing operations. And that became our mantra in this case, is that we needed to take advantage of digital technologies to improve operations. And with the cloud being the most advanced at that time, at least, that became a religion for us, that we need to put everything in the cloud so that we could really build a company that would take advantage of the data that we would get by putting everything in the cloud and getting access to all the data, so they can interrogate the data and come up with better insights. And we believe that is going to be a big part of our success.
Also, there is, besides the fact that you can do it, in different parts of the world, one of the biggest advantages that comes to people, for example, in other parts of the world, is access to a lot of things which they did not have access to before. So I think that's a big democratization that's happening. Can you, put some thought onto that?
Yeah,
I mean beyond the typical use case of vaccines that we all saw. There's a lot more that can be done, correct?
Yeah, for example, I mean, like what we are building in the UAE or in other parts of the world, we can overnight make these regions capable of producing some of the most advanced medicines. It's not just vaccines. I mean, we're talking about cell therapies, gene therapies, gene editing, things that are really at the cutting edge of medicine. And because we are, if we decide to partner with these countries, we build something on their land, and then we can transfer the technology overnight using our cloud. Uh, we are enabling them to make those type of drugs in their country. And if this was simply an island, right? I mean, if we just built something and left them on their own, I think it could wither and die. But because we are constantly connected to them, it's almost like getting a software upgrade every few months, because as we upgrade our own network, we upgrade them as well. And that makes them future proofed to some extent. And that is one of the reasons why many of these countries are um, have decided to work with us, because this is a way for them to ensure that they can come up to speed and have someone like us help them to enable them to become mature and be on their own. So, from an access standpoint, that is a very important um, dynamic because CAR T type of drugs that can cure people's cancers shouldn't just be available to people in the United States. Other countries and other people should also have access to them, and this is one way for them to get access to them.
And before I let you go, the final question about India, like being an Indian, like what is it that you think this kind of a technology can do for India? What can we do to actually make this technology work for India, or can it work for India?
Absolutely, 100%. As we advance our technologies, we are one of the very few manufacturing companies that are investing our own money into this technology, where we are not taking advantage of customer money. We are independently investing in technology so that we can make these newer type of drugs faster, cheaper, better. You won't believe this, but people just really don't have good answers of how do we take the cost down for making a cell therapy, an individualized medicine, because it doesn't really rely on economies of scale, and people haven't really figured out how to make an N of one batch, which is also which is not cost prohibitive. We are investing in that kind of technology, and as we solve those problems, as we can make these type of drugs a lot more affordable, I believe that this is going to become very, very useful in countries like India, um, and the common man can take advantage of these important therapies. So I think that is the mission of our company, is that by becoming really excellent in our trade of biomanufacturing, we can truly drive the cost down to the point that these type of drugs can become much more affordable and accessible. And I'm not talking about just the rich people in India, but I want to we'd like to be able to make these type of drugs available to every person, irrespective of their economic background.
Rahul, thank you very much. Thank you. In the middle of your travel, you've been able to talk to us, and we hope to see you next time live on this stage. Thank you very
Well,
much for your time.
thank you for your time. Thank you for inviting me. Appreciate it.
Thank you.